Yeah, 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 yeah. Welcome in. Welcome in once again to an exciting Monday. These weekends, especially now that football's going, are getting pretty action-packed. So I'm enjoying it. Now we got pretty much everything except football in the playoffs also, which is rad. Um, man, I just can't wait to see what's going to unfold here. Hockey is kind of wrapping up. We'll see. We'll check it on the score there, but maybe Dallas hangs on and makes it interesting enough to go to a Game 7. NBA Finals going to open up in a couple nights, and as we already discussed, football trucking ahead, and baseball, the playoffs are set too. So a lot to dig into here. But real quick, Tyler, how was your weekend? What did you really enjoy the most, and sort of what were you watching over the weekend?
I just enjoyed just action-packed sports weekend. You know, the end of the baseball season kind of is whack as the wild card run was for the NL. It did make for an exciting final day. Of course, college football and NFL just dominating everything. Had two title fights on the UFC card Saturday night. Yeah, NASCAR playoffs keep going on. It's just been crazy action-packed, and so it's leaving a lot for us to talk about, where it's like an hour is probably not enough to recap stuff anymore. But how was your weekend?
We'll make it happen.
Yep.
No, it was awesome, which we're going to go right into the college football immediately after this little, intro. But the first, just what felt like a real weekend of college football, as far as some actual good teams playing games that actually matter against not just walkovers. And then also yesterday was my first red zone day of the year, which was awesome. I spent first 3 hours of the morning just watching that red zone. Actually, I found a way. Again, entertainment purposes only, but there is a way on the internet. So I'm just going to say that.
What?
If you want to watch red zone, yeah, I know that may shock you. That may upset some of you.
Ronnie's holding back some secrets here.
No, I'm not going to put out any links or, get myself in any kind of copyright trouble, but you can find some high-quality streams. I was able to stream that on my phone to the TV, which was awesome. Honestly, the picture quality was as good, if not better, than my cable, and still able to use my phone at the same time. So I was just refreshed on fantasy, watching Red Zone, shooting off a couple texts. I mean, that's the dream of a Red Zone Sunday. So that was awesome.
What an age we live in.
Yeah, technology, man. Coming in hot. Real quick, let's hit the comments. Jaime, even
hope you're all right,
calling
Jaime.
on my day off, I refuse to miss the Kings. Bless up, Jaime. Super fan.
We appreciate it. Hope you're all right.
Some merch coming your way. I'll think of something, and we'll get together. We'll have to talk to the producer here. Get your address and your phone number. We'll send something out.
There you go.
And of course, Cease. I used to have a high quality stream, but now I'm old. So thank you, Cease. Also check it in. Actually, let's hit a Cease truck horn in honor.
Let me give you a little truck horn before we go.
Oh, let's hit it. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
It's trucking and sport fishing insider on the program, Cease Beeston. Thank you, as always, for tuning in.
Cycling as well.
Oh, and cycling. Yeah, he was hitting us with the Tour de France updates, which I don't even know any of what happened. But it seemed like a good race. But let's dive right in to the football, starting with college football on Saturday. Welcoming in now on the Canada Steak Burger Celebrity Hotline, we do have 97.3, the fans' own, Mr. Braden, Surprenant, friend of the program. Braden, how are we doing this evening?
Braden, what's up, brother?
What's going on, guys? Just enjoying your guys' little intro there, and all the sports going on. It's been great. It's been fantastic. Watched a lot of college football. Easy there. Watched a lot of college football. Watched some NFL. If you're not watching Red Zone, I don't know how you watch the NFL based on my experience of watching Red Zone. And you know what? I'm not going to give out my secrets either, because everybody's got their own way of watching, and that's fine. And,
as we like to say on this program, whether it comes to betting picks or anything, everything given out on this program, entertainment purposes only. I think that legally covers it. So
I think so.
Our legal guys said that we're good if we just put that disclaimer on. So I think we're good. But yes, there are ways. Maybe some of you don't want to know, but just Google it. You can watch whatever you want. And the first 2 weeks, I was fortunate enough to be in a place where I could just they had the the Sunday ticket, whatever, watch all the games that you want. But this is my first weekend of the NFL morning where I was at home, just letting that red zone roll. And I missed it, honestly. It's still weird for college, NFL, whatever, where there's no fans or limited fans, but still get excited for football. I'm just going to be honest. I think the thing that stood out the most as the build up to the NFL started was you didn't constantly hear about the NFL. It was just like, oh yeah, it starts in 2 days. There would have been commercials just shoved down your throat, like from the draft, in a regular circumstance, it would have been like wall to wall NFL. They try to take over everything. And they were just kind of like, hey, some players are upset. We don't know what's going on with the testing. We had the weird false positive thing. So they just like laid back, and now we have football for now. So anyway, let's get into the college football. Well, as you know, I'm happy because Riverside, again, has not lost a game since 1975.
Hey, and they're bowl eligible this year. Everybody's bowl eligible, so I can't wait for the UC Riverside, UC Irvine, battle up there in Carson. That's going to be fantastic.
Oh, I like to see if they get some kind of intramural squad together and maybe branch out and play some other teams. But also at the end of that 1975 season, I believe they won like 4 straight games. Shout out to Bob Toledo, former UCLA and Tulane coach, who was the UC Riverside head coach at the time. But a lot of good stuff in college football this weekend. I got to start right off the bat just with the LSU defending national champs and Mississippi State game. I think everyone in this panel of 3 are huge Mike Leach fans. I'm comfortable saying that. So I enjoyed that thoroughly. I know LSU lost everyone that was pretty much notable on their offense, but they have talent. So it just seemed kind of disjointed. They kind of seemed like guys that maybe had some limited practices, whatever. But, Mississippi State was going through the same thing and just couldn't handle the Mike Leach air raid. As our Big 12 insider, Braden, what did you take away from that game? It was classic Mike Leach. I know even my dad was texting me when they had the lead late. He's like, they should just run the clock out. I'm like, that's kind of not what Mike Leach does. Like, they're just going to throw it like 80 times a game, and 12 different guys are going to catch passes and live or die with that. So it worked out, and I love seeing it. But I don't know how much of that game you caught. But, what were some of your initial thoughts on that?
I was able to watch a lot of that game. And, again, LSU is a team that lost a lot of talent. But I wonder what all those SEC fans were saying, because they always would pop off and go, well, that Mike Leach's offense wouldn't work in our conference. We're just so great defensively, and nobody can move the ball against us. We're just so great defensively, and the only reason why the Big 12 scores so many points is because their defenses suck, not because their offenses are very potent. But Mike Leach, nothing like just dropping a bomb of setting a quarterback record in the first week of his offense with Costello, and again. Costello's a good quarterback, but San Diego State completely shut that dude down. It's not like he was dominating at Stanford. He made some plays here and there, but he's not, he was going to be a first-round draft pick. Let's put it that way. And again,
he wasn't a top-regarded guy, but it's just kind of like Mike Leach gets someone like, how strong is your arm? Can you throw the ball 80 times a game? All right, we got a spot for you.
The perfect Mike Leach quarterback is Gardner Minshew. Did you watch Gardner Minshew on Thursday night? Wow, it was pathetic. That was just like the worst performance ever, and he was like tearing it up for Mike Leach at Washington State. So, you could put anybody out there at quarterback in Mike Leach's offense, and it seems like he's going to terrorize some people. And he terrorized the Bayou Bengals, and Coach O was all raspy and upset, and there's nobody there to enjoy the bells. I was missing the cowbells, man. That's just straight Mississippi State right there. But I like the way Mike Leach started off the season strong, and we know how the season's going to end. Mike Leach is going to go on a tear through the SEC, and he's going to beat a bunch of teams, and they're going to be like, I can't believe he just beat us. And then he's going to have a chance to potentially make it to the playoff and maybe win a conference championship, and he's going to lose to his rival. That's just how it kind of works. So, like, Ole Miss, Ole Miss is going to beat Mississippi State. That's almost a guarantee. And if you're a betting man, again, put up the disclaimer real quick. But
yes, I will.
You know what? Bet Ole Miss.
As always.
I bet my house on Ole Miss to beat Mississippi State at the end of the year, especially Mississippi State's undefeated, because that's how Mike Leach is. He's going to win a lot of games. Never won the Apple Cup, but he's probably not going to win the Egg Bowl either.
I can't
talking
risk
about
even
bowls.
Braden, friend of the program, Big 12 insider, Braden. Still, don't put us in jeopardy, so I do have to put the disclaimer up there.
Yeah, put the disclaimer up. Absolutely. Put the disclaimer up.
I do like that you're buying in on the Lane train over Mike Leach, but I mean, look, given
Absolutely.
Leach's history, I completely understand it.
Did you guys see Lane Kiffin when he got off the bus? What he was wearing? He looked like he was about to go to the Ole Miss baseball game. He was looked like he was at a frat event. He wore the baseball jersey. He had if you put a sideways visor on him, you thought he was going to one of the frat parties. He was doing a mixer with Kappa Kappa Gamma sorority there at Old Miss.
That's old Joey. That's old Joey Freshwater there. That's what that is.
Joey Freshwater. He's just one of the bros.
Yeah, dude, one of the bros, and then Florida put a 50 burger on his ass. So that's just how it works.
I got to give a shout out also to. We like to keep it mysterious as far as our Twitter account. I know Braden has relayed this to me as well, but Tyler had a nice tweet after that game with Mike Leach just trolling the whole SEC basically.
Yes,
he already. Costello set the record with 8 minutes left. He already had 550 yards passing, and then he just kept racking them up. So I like seeing it. His post game interview also was pretty hilarious. I thought we were gonna get some more Leach bombs in there, but he kind of saved the best for last. He said something weird about the LSU stadium. There's a lot of ghosts in this place. And then goes off and he's like, yeah, we were going to play Kansas City or Green Bay or Baltimore, but I guess they're going to play someone this week, so we had to play LSU.
He had that whole ordeal, too, with, the New York Times and, the wearing the mask thing. And that was I don't know if you saw that transcript, but that was also just completely hysterical. New York Times guys well, I mean, I know you guys scored a lot of points, but your mask was only on 20% of the time. What gives? And then he went on a whole tangent of how it's hard. He's like, well, I discovered that every time I needed to talk, which was basically the entire game, because I call plays, and nobody could understand what I was saying with the mask on, so I take the mask off, and then I forget to put it back on, and then it was up and down and up and down, and then you get to a point where I got one of those masks that you wear around your neck, and then I put it up, and then you start sweating, and it's starting to smell, and you're sitting there why is this stadium stink? And I realized it was just my breath, and it was just such a chaotic thing. And then he goes, he's like, all right, well, let me ask you this, buddy. He's like, how do you do with you wearing your mask around the rest of the day? And the guy had nothing to say. And it was just so typical Mike Leach. And I didn't see any video or audio of it. I did read it on on a website, and I read it in my head as Mike Leach, and it was just the funniest.
You can hear it in his voice.
Yeah.
Even if they wouldn't have won that game, going into the season, I was already my heart is full. Because Mike Leach is in the SEC. SEC is always on TV because, they're kind of like the dominant conference, whatever. But also they have the ESPN deal, so they run ESPN, SportsCenter, whatever. And it's just going to be more sound bites from Mike Leach. Honestly, the closest Spurrier was a different guy, but he always would give you a good quote. He would always sneak trash the other school, oh, Tennessee, I don't even know if they have a library over there because I don't know if anyone can read there. Or just things like that. And Mike Leach will just, first of all, he'll answer any question that you ask him. Honestly, he will think about it and give you an answer, even if it sidetracks the whole press conference. But
the SEC needs that, man. They got too many guys like Saban, and they got Gus Malzahn.
That are too just drilled down. Yeah, just oh, man, my job's
Fisher.
on the line.
I mean, they got all these guys that are just whole hard-nosed and just we got to, play the best we can, and, all the same usual stuff. And you're going to have Mike Leach sitting there talking about who's got better barbecue, Mississippi or Alabama. He's going to start a war between the two states. I mean, he's going to have more bulletin board material based on the food and culture around the SEC than anything else.
And he will give you a 20-minute dissertation on that. Even he will just go in and just oh well, yeah, I did. I ate at a pretty good place. I think it was in Nashville. Yeah, man, must have been 30. And, he'll just go on and on.
I can't wait for his spiel he's going to give on how the Mississippi River is better than Missouri River, which is better than the Arkansas River. And he's going to go, well, I mean, it's the mighty Mississippi for a reason. And it goes all the way from South Dakota all the way down through. And if you need to transport stuff on that, you could definitely take a riverboat of some kind, or maybe a big tanker. You could take a tanker too. I mean, that's also a good thing. I mean, someone's going to. I just hope the media down in the SEC, because they take themselves a little too seriously. The Pac-12, they know it's a joke, so they can kind of ask joke questions.
Right.
Somebody's
Right.
got to jump on the. I don't know, man. I think the Quarantine Kings could probably get on a Zoom call with Mike Leach and just ask him whatever you want. That might fly. I think that's a good idea for you guys.
We're gonna try to hook that up because
We'll see.
it's
Yeah, we
always
might.
been my dream to either meet or talk to Mike Leach. I know Tyler feels the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, you can't help but love that guy. Like, you were saying any question you ask him, it's not even that he thinks about it. It's like he already has the answer prepared almost. Like, you can ask him the weirdest question. He's like, oh, I'm so glad you asked me that. And then he just gives you a 15-minute just monologue about, what mascot's going to beat who or which coach would he hate to fight the most. Like, he's just such a weird, funny dude. But, yeah, it's great seeing him, go out there. Just first game against the national champs. Freaking, quarterback puts up 623 yards when their best performance the year before was like 280 against Louisiana Lafayette. So it's definitely looking forward to see what Mike Leach does, the rest of the year. But
for sure, my favorite one ever was the person that asked him who would win in a total tournament of battle of all the
Pac-12
Pac-12
mascots. Yeah,
of
Yeah.
the coaches. The one of the coaches. He's like, well, man, that guy's pretty strong, so he might take me down. But
this
guy's little, but he's
we
fast.
talking about the Ute Nation. Are we?
Yeah.
Well, Coop can definitely take out the Wildcat down there in Arizona. And then his spiel on the Sun Devil was great. He's like, is he a mythical being or some type of creature? Because I don't know. It'd be kind of tough to knock down the devil.
I hope.
the Cardinals just a tree. I mean, it's
Yeah, right.
College football fans have known about Mike Leach, and the legend just continues to grow. But I'm just hoping this, little window in the SEC really blows them up more, especially to SEC fans. Like, who the hell is this guy? Like, what is his deal? Like, nobody knows. We still don't know.
He's going to upset a lot of SEC people. I am currently mad at his former one of his former schools out there in the middle of the desert. They cost me big time this week, and proving all the haters that Texas is definitely not back because Texas Tech in full Texas Tech form blows a 15-point lead with 2 minutes left.
Yep.
And, I don't know how I knew that was coming, but I just kind of knew that was coming.
Well, that was a wild game. I was trying to keep tabs on both. They were both sort of wrapping up to the end. I know Mississippi State was more comfortably in the lead, but then it's, again, Mike Leach is going to throw it. So you're like, oh, my God, what's going to happen here? And so flipping back and forth. And, yes, Texas did pull that off. So safely, they are back.
Basketball score? Was that from – I didn't know the Big 12 was underway in basketball.
That is a Big 12 football score. That is a classic.
That is a classic. Texas Tech has no defense, and Sam Ehlinger just likes to score a lot of points. And I don't know what happened with Texas' defense. I mean, Texas Tech's offense is not that great.
No, it's not.
The special teams for the Longhorns was just a disaster. They had a punt block. They gave up an onside kick. They had that terrible misfortune of the guy trying to field a punt, and then he kicked it backwards. And
man, that was
in the end zone. Saturday was the worst special teams they have ever seen in my entire life. I think there was 14 blocked punts. It was ridiculous.
Jeez. Oh,
well, don't
Beamer
worry,
ball
though,
taking over.
Yeah, good old Frank Beamer ball. But don't worry, Braden. Texas is in fact still back.
We'll see. We'll see how that is at 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific time on Saturday on Fox.
Well, let's swerve right into that. I know Braden, again, our Big 12 insider and TCU football insider. How you feeling about that? I mean, obviously there was some exposed weaknesses there, but they still had hung a ton of points out there. How you feeling going into that?
The first problem was TCU looked like they didn't play a game in about 7 months, which they hadn't, and Iowa State played a game last week, which you could totally tell. I thought in the first half TCU's defense looked really good, but they kept giving up big plays, which is not ideal, obviously. But if you look at Iowa State's offense, I think the majority of their offense came on 3 plays, which is very unfortunate for TCU. The other problem too is they had in a more of a serious matter, because I like to joke around with you guys, but in a serious matter, their starting quarterback Max Duggan was diagnosed with a heart condition that apparently he has had his entire life and had no idea. But if it wasn't for the COVID-19 extra protocols, they would have never found this heart condition. in Max Duggan. He had a procedure done to make everything good and well with him, and obviously that's a great thing for this COVID-19 testing and all the precautions that college football did in order to keep their athletes safe. I mean, it could have saved Max Duggan's life, and not just because of COVID-19, but just with something he didn't even realize he had his entire life. But anyway, he's better now. They were kind of easing him back into it. They decided to go with the walk-on transfer from Georgia in Michael Downing, or I think it's I forget his brother played at TCU when I was there. But anyway, he was a walk-on quarterback, and he did okay, but he looked like a walk-on. And by that point in time, TCU kind of dug themselves into a huge hole, and then Duggan came back, and he started to bring him back. But at that point, it was too little, too late. I think the most frustrating I ever was during that game on Saturday was, TCU made a stop. They're down 2 points with 4 minutes to go on 2nd and 4. They throw a hitch to their receiver on the right side. I think it was to Tay Barber. Barber mishandles it on his hand. He tries to pull it into his chest. His knee kicks it into the air, and some linebacker out of nowhere, just like you just see a blur with long hair, just like dive and snag the ball like inches off the ground on a pick, and it was just like, oh, this is just not our day. But
not going the right way. Yeah.
How can you say it wasn't your day though when your defense scored on one of the absolute worst decisions I've ever seen by a quarterback? I mean, that's like. The play I'm talking about, the quarterback was being sacked.
Yeah, Purdy, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. I think Joe Davis even said it. I mean, the Dodgers broadcaster does fuck that. He's like, and Purdy, what are you doing? And then he goes it right to a TCU defender, and he catches it, and he's like looking around like, I can't. What do I do now? And then he takes off for a touchdown. I mean, that was just like the most bizarre play. And to be honest with you, that was even the craziest play of the afternoon, just in terms of college football in general. With all the crazy, I mean, Miami, like later that night, Florida State did the exact same thing. I mean, it was unbelievable. But I think I tweeted it out. I mean, after Oklahoma lost, and I mean, Texas should have lost, and you saw LSU go down. I mean, everybody looked really poor except for Alabama, but they're Alabama. I'm going to throw them into a different category. Saban was probably illegally practicing the entire 7 months anyway. But anyway, I just have a feeling that college football is going to be the craziest season that we've ever seen. I mean, let's think about it this way. You had no spring ball, because spring ball is usually in March, so that all got shut down. I mean, it was a battle for these schools to get kids back on campus to work out. You don't know how many of them have actually been working out. The fall camp was, hit and miss, because even the schools that didn't cancel football during that time, they still don't know if they were playing or not. I mean, we weren't doing full contact. It was just kind of a ridiculous thing. I mean, look at Navy. Navy didn't do any tackling of any kind before their first game against BYU, and they got absolutely rolled.
And it crushed.
And as soon as Reese Davis said, they haven't tackled or blocked anybody all camp, I'm like, oh, this game's going to be an ass-kicking. There's no way in hell they're going to survive a college football game. BYU was practicing. I mean, they have 30-year-olds on their team anyway. I mean, they play by different rules as it is. I mean, the grown men were going to their job, dropped their kids off at daycare, and they went to BYU practice, and then kicked the living crap out of a bunch of 18-year-old Navy cadets is what they did. And then after that, Coach Niumatalolo got his team ready to go, and then they've been able to answer back. But I think it's going to be like that for the first couple of weeks, and don't be surprised when the Big Ten and Pac-12 start later on this season that it might be a disaster out of the gate for a handful of those teams. But Oklahoma losing and LSU losing and Texas being in a battle. I mean, even last week, Iowa State lost to Louisiana. Kansas State lost to Arkansas State.
Sun Belt dominating the Big 12.
Sun Belt running wild.
Barely beat Houston Baptist, and all three of those schools either won or should have won. And I don't really count Kansas. I mean, they're just basically the Big 12 to just make the Big 12 look better at basketball.
They're there for basketball, yeah.
It's just going to be a crazy. It's going to be a crazy year, and I don't be surprised if you just have. I mean, if you didn't think it was going to be a crazy year, look at that. I mean, the ranked matchup last week was, I think it was like Army versus, who did Army play? Army played like Cincinnati, and that was a ranked matchup on a Saturday. So I think college football is going to be fun to watch. I think everybody's basically got a shot to do some damage this year, and I think every special teams coach in the country better start, getting their act together. They're going to get furloughed based on financial differences in the athletic department.
I think too. Just real
Go ahead,
quick.
Ryan.
I mean, we're already kind of seeing the same things in the NFL. There was no preseason. It was kind of limited practice. We've seen some weird, like, just guys not like in it plays, or like last week we had all the injury, like just massive injuries. Like that could be some lack of conditioning, whatever. I think it's going to be even more amplified in college, where you're getting more people together, not professional players too. So like that time spent, with the rest of the team, practicing, going through things, that affects college even more, I think. So as the season goes on, I think it's going to be even weirder. We're going to see like some crazy outcomes, bizarre plays where you're just like, what is he doing? Like, or just
You're gonna
things
hear
like
Joe
that.
Davis saying a lot more times, "What are you doing?"
What are you doing?
The call. Oh my! Joe Davis has had some pretty good college football calls before, just like going, just at the spur of the moment. I wouldn't say not being professional, but just saying what everybody else was saying. What is he doing?
So let me ask you this, because you mentioned it a couple times already about, of course, Oklahoma losing to Kansas State this week. So is this going to be kind of the typical, like, Oklahoma loses one conference game during the season and then runs the table the rest of the way and then gets beat up in the first round of the playoffs? Like, or are you thinking it's going to be maybe a little bit tougher for Oklahoma this year?
I don't know. I guess it depends on how good Spencer Rattler does, and the problem. I mean, Oklahoma lost like 3 guys. I think after they lost on Saturday, 3 of them decided they're just going to opt out for the season. I think they've seen enough. They're like, hey, we ain't losing to I'm not losing to Kansas State, man. I mean, so
Yeah, I didn't
they
sign up
they
for this.
they
I'm out.
bailed, they bailed early, and they're like, hey, look, it's Snyder's not the coach, and we lost to Kansas State. I don't know
Right.
about this. But I don't know. Oklahoma's Oklahoma. They got good dudes. They got good they got good players, and the reason why Oklahoma does so well in the Big 12 every year is because they have offensive. They got all the linemen. They get all the
Yeah.
linemen
Oh,
every
yeah.
year. So they're able to play some bully ball against a lot of the teams in the Big 12. And I mean, usually TCU can give them a run for their money, but at the end of the day, they get worn out by the end of the game because there's not a lot of guys or teams that can hang with them. I mean, Texas can hang with them, but the Big 12, the quote unquote the defense deal. I mean, there's some teams in the Big 12 that can play defense. Oklahoma, unfortunately, is not one of them. That's why they get hammered all the time in the college football playoff. I mean, they don't have the D linemen that a lot of these schools do, and when you get to the college football playoff, you're going against teams that can slow you down. I mean, they're going to score a lot of points, but unfortunately, they give up a lot of points. And I don't know, with Oklahoma, if they're not playing in Jerry's World or wherever they decide to do the Big 12 championship at the end of the year, I mean, that's got to be a very disappointing season for Oklahoma, and one that I would be kind of shocked, to be honest with you. Even with them losing to Kansas State, they usually will bounce back. Lincoln Riley does a hell of a job over there. They're a well-run program, and they get their guys ready to go. I mean, that's the case in point. I mean, if you want to compare 2 schools, I mean, Oklahoma has recruited the exact same talent, if not maybe just a little bit less talent than Texas. I mean, Texas usually gets the best recruiting class of the Big 12 every year, and they're in battles with Texas Tech, where Oklahoma is just kind of cruising through the Big 12. I do think the crowd not being there is going to be a factor for a lot of these games.
Sure.
I think that plays a big factor. I mean, and Amon G. Carter is not, that stadium's not a loud stadium for TCU, but if they had their 45,000 people there, that's a lot big of a difference. I think if Kansas State had to play in front of 80,000 to 100,000 people at Oklahoma, they're probably not going to win that game. And I think you saw that on display last night. If you watch Sunday Night Football, I mean, the
Yeah.
Superdome is a place that is just absolutely rocking all the time. And I think they showed the highlights a couple times of just every team having a meltdown. And you watched the Packers last night, and the Saints jumped off sides more times than the Packers did in their home stadium with nobody there. So
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a huge factor. I think it's kind of an equalizer for some of these small schools going against big schools, especially on the road. But I think it's all going to come down to who can get geared up and ready to go faster. And the other thing too is COVID, and it's not because of kids getting COVID potentially or players getting COVID, but interacting with other players that might have COVID, and the whole kind of list of the quarantine and the contact tracing. Because I know a lot of teams that maybe had one player get the positive test, and I think that who was Charlotte supposed to play? Charlotte was supposed to play some big school, I think, and maybe North Carolina or something like that, and and that game got banged because of a COVID-19 test. And what they found out, it was they hit the positive case was a false positive, and the 24 players that interacted with that one player that all had to quarantine, they all didn't get to play, and then Charlotte had to forfeit it. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting who can weather the storm, who can weather the injuries, and who's really good at playing in front of nobody, because that seems to be a big factor, I guess.
And I think that's going to be more amplified in college again than in the NFL, as far as like the difference that home crowd makes, especially when you're talking about stadiums that hold 90, 100, 110,000 people sometimes. And now it's down to maybe 15, 20,000, maybe, if they're in a place where they can have fans.
And professionals can get their own adrenaline going. They know how to hype themselves up. I mean, you're talking about 18 to like as old as you be like 23. I mean, 18 to 23-year-olds. I mean, that's
BYU like 27.
Yeah, BYU like 45. But that's going to be interesting to me. I'm really curious to see how many kids come back next year, because everybody's eligible next year. I mean, you got a lot of situations where, next year of college football, you got, more high school kids coming in, and you have everybody that wanted to stay and play gets another year. Because, and think about it this way. So TCU's punter's 27 years old. He's a sophomore from Australia. He goes back next year as a 28-year-old sophomore. I mean, he could potentially be like BYU and play until he's 31, 32 years old.
That's some Chris Wanky stuff right there.
I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, college football for the next couple of years, I think, is gonna be very interesting. I am curious to see the whole bowl tie-in thing, because I guess these bowl games still want to play, and everybody's eligible to go to a bowl game. I mean, if there's a bowl team or a bowl going to pick like Arkansas versus Kansas, just to get a little bit better of a game, because they're two Power 5 schools, instead of picking like maybe the Mountain West coming back, like maybe a Wyoming that has 3 losses. I mean, it's going to be fascinating, almost as fascinating as watching San Diego State play in Carson at Cal State Dominguez Hills. I mean, that's going to be a wild adventure for San Diego State.
Yeah, that's going to be super weird. I wanted to actually, just as far as sort of the testing thing, I don't know, again, like sort of who is, still there you're in contact with, but I was kind of curious too, as far as the sort of like the traveling party. I know Braden, for those that don't know, was on the TCU video staff for the football team. So like, what are they having to deal with? Like, do they travel at all? Are they also having to get tested all the time? Like, what's the deal?
They do have to get tested a lot. I think the students that work are being treated like athletes. When I was there, you were basically considered a quote-unquote athlete. We had the joke that video staff are athletes too, which is kind of funny. Yeah, I mean, they're getting tested. I know the personnel staff are getting tested. I don't know how big the traveling party, if they took anybody down from it. But I think traveling is still the same, with the exception of they're not letting anybody out. But the thing with football is that's a lot different than baseball, where you're probably not going to run into a lot of issues. Your traveling is like less than 48 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're barely in that city that you're in, and just traveling with TCU. I mean, the players were basically in the hotel the entire time, and we had a little bit more freedom as the video and managers and the training staff, but. Just based on what Gary Patterson did, with his team, I mean, we'd stay an hour outside of where we were playing. And when you're in the Big 12, I mean, the city you're in is basically out an hour outside of, any civilization of any kind. So think about an hour outside of that city. And I think I told you guys that the last time I was on, but I mean, you go play, Oklahoma State, you're staying an hour outside of Stillwater. I mean, so
Right.
think about a place you're going to be. I mean, there's not like there's going to be anything for those guys to do anyway. And if there was, I don't know how each individual city is, but I can't imagine a city of like less than 1,000 people have been, drastically affected by COVID-19 anyway. So, I mean, I know for a fact we played in. Oh, there you go, lost it again. Table.
Get it together, Braden.
When we played in West Virginia, I mean, we stayed in Bridgeport, West Virginia, an hour outside of Morgantown.
Ooh, the big city there. Yeah.
That's right.
Hour outside of Morgantown sounds like.
Right.
I don't want to go there ever in my life.
I told you the story already, so I won't bore your listeners of the story of the Dunkin' Donuts with the guy that had like their entire staff had less teeth combined than I did. But that's basically what it is. So it's going to be easy for these NFL teams and college teams to stay healthy on the road because they're not really doing anything. I will tell you this: we're supposed to have Tommy Edmond on our show tomorrow. I was texting Tommy. We have some mutual friends, so we've had him on the show before. But I hung out with his wife's cousin's a good family friend of ours, and I was hanging out with her yesterday, and I was getting the lowdown of just how the traveling party is just for Major League Baseball. So I don't know if you saw Trevor Bauer's tweets that he was complaining that family and friends could not go to the first round. So that's the same case. So Tommy Edmonds from San Diego. His wife is from San Diego. His wife has been in San Diego for 2 weeks now, just hanging out with family and stuff. She had to fly back to St. Louis to stay in a hotel right outside of Busch Stadium, where she has to stay quarantined for about a week before they can even potentially get on the team charter to go meet him in Arlington if the season gets continued if they beat the Padres. So what I think is interesting is she flew out like 2 nights ago to go back to St. Louis as Tommy Edmond and the Cardinals were flying back to San Diego, and the Cardinals can't leave their hotel. And I got a friend that lives in the Omni. I didn't know you could do that, but he lives there apparently. And he said no one's allowed to go to the gym because that's where the Cardinals are going to stay. And when they all leave, the Cardinals leave. Regardless who wins that series, there's four American League teams that are going to be coming to San Diego, staying in that Omni hotel, and it's basically everything gets delivered to them. They can't leave at all. They're there and they're in the park, and that's it. And I think for the families, it's kind of ridiculous. And I think Justin Turner brought up a good point. He's like, "Look, I've been living with my wife like the entire season. I don't know what changes now. I mean, she's done her part. I've done my part. We've been extra cautious, and we haven't had any issues with the Dodgers. So I don't know why we have to all of a sudden drastically change things. But, it's about money, and they can't afford to not have games be played at this point in time."
I know we went, a little long there, but it's a good time to go into baseball. I feel like they're doing pretty much what the NBA did, where just let's get everyone here, and then let's not let other people come in for a while. Let's just make sure we're getting negative tests. Like once we're up and running, yes, the further we get, all right, there could be some limited family, whatever. Like there's still maybe some talk of in the World Series, limited fans, but I think they're just trying to get the initial part under control to where the games can go off, the tournament sort of moves forward, and they get these games on TV is the main thing, like you said, for the money. So they're just going to have to eat it. Like, I know it sucks as players. All the NBA players pretty much, they had that little last minute, should we go? Should we not go? Should we just sit out? And there was, some of the social stuff going on as part of that too. But I think universally most of the NBA players have accepted that it was just going to suck. Right. And the ones that opted out, if they had, I just had a kid or whatever else was going on in their life, nothing but respect for that. But the NBA just kind of said, hey, look, this is how it's got to be, because we just can't have a team get shut down in the middle of the conference semifinals or something like that. It's going to blow the whole thing up. So I think baseball is doing the same thing because they could see that they're actually close to pulling this whole thing off, and they just got to have it under control, at least to start. And then, all right, cool, no positive tests, we're moving forward, we'll let some family in, whatever. But I think it's just going to be that same lockdown right up off the bat.
Hopefully they can do more stuff in the bubble, but we'll see what happens moving forward. Again, all they care about is they got to get those games in because that's how they get their check. I mean, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Always,
they got to get that check.
Yep.
There's only one reason why they, within 24 hours, agreed to, expanded playoffs, no problem. Union team's fine.
Extra 50 mil or 500 mil, whatever it was. Yeah, we'll take that.
I will say it's been pretty impressive. I'll give all the credit in the world. Ronnie and I talked about this so many times where it's how is the MLB even going to pull this off? There's no way they're going to pull off a full season. You know what? Outside of, the big Cardinals and the big Marlins outbreak at the beginning and then, a couple small hiccups here and there, they pulled it off. I'm really shocked. And, I think it's going to suck for the players because they've been able to be near their families all year. And now all of a sudden you can't for this last month of the year. But probably just to kind of ensure that it is going to finish, probably definitely is for the best off to have this bubble going on. But, my hat's off to the MLB. I really didn't think they were going to be able to pull this off. And, here we are.
All but 2 teams played 60 games.
I thought there was
True.
no way with fearless leader Robbie Manfred at the helm that this would
Hey,
come off, but it actually did.
He's not off the hook yet, man. He wants to. He thinks that extra innings rule is going to stay, which I'm totally against.
Oh, God.
No, totally again it.
Out.
You know,
Even if the Padres are good with the extra innings new rule, I'm totally out on that.
It's not. Yeah. It's not right. But real quick on that note, let's just flash that up on the screen there. Shout out to MLB on Fox. How are you feeling as let's call you the Padres insider as well, Big 12 insider and Padres insider, Braden Surprenant on the program. What are you looking for? How are you feeling going into this series against the Cardinals? They're very annoying. I can say that. You know, too, as a Padre fan in previous playoff years. But, as a Dodger fan, I freaking hate the Cardinals. So what are you looking for here? I know I saw the thing with all the CBS experts that Thomas sent us. They're all picking the Padres. Kind of makes you nervous. I don't know. But what are you feeling here?
As Chris Berman says, so you're all on the Padres, huh?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting, and I'm gonna just give you the warning now. My phone might die during this whole little spiel here, so I'll make it quick. But wait, hold on. First of all, why are the Padres blue on your thing? Is that blue or brown?
That's brown, dude.
Brown.
Dude, I saw one today on ESPN. It was blue still, and I'm like, come on. I mean, brown is back. We need to embrace
Brown is back. I've always been on board for brown.
Anyway, the Cardinals series, the Padres have only been eliminated by one team in the playoffs. That's not the World Series, and it's been by the St. Louis Cardinals. They're 1-9 against the St. Louis Cardinals ever in their history in the postseason. But that being said, I got a question for you. Who's pitching for the Padres? Who's going to pitch? That was a big question on today's show. It's like you got no Clevenger, probably not. Lamet is kind of still. They're hopeful, but I'm not buying it. Kind of deal with Lamet. I mean, what are you gonna roll Chris Paddock out? You're gonna roll the sheriff?
I was saying you're gonna have to rely on Paddock, and he's been shaky as hell.
Yeah, he's up and down to say the least.
You can't have Zach Davies go game 1 on short rest. He's gonna be a game 2 guy. When you go with the Garrett Richards bullpen day on game 1, and then it gets to game 3, and it's a win or go home, you're gonna put it in the hands of Chris Paddock. I mean, they got to figure that out, and we'll see what happens with that situation. But, I like the Padres got a better lineup than the Cardinals. They're better than the Cardinals. Cardinals have played 20 games. I think it was 25 games in 18 days or something absurd, 25 games in 20 days. They're going to be tired. I mean, they don't have the horses to get that done. I think the Padres should be able to get on quick, and that's what they need to do. They need to jump on the Cardinals fast and try to get rid of the Cardinals as soon as possible so they can get to Arlington as fast as they can and try to rest up and take on the Dodgers, because if anybody can beat the Dodgers, it might be the Padres, but I don't even think the Padres really have high hopes against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and I don't want to get you guys too excited because you guys are Dodger fans.
Well, I think, too, for the Padres,
it is October.
The starting pitching thing was sort of the biggest question coming into the season. And they had some guys get hot and just put it together. But now, unfortunately, it comes back around. Now when it's time for them to actually be in the playoffs. You could survive a little bit maybe on some of these bullpen days. But I feel like for the Padres, I'm not going to say it's like be happy to be there. Like everyone wants to win. But just win the game in front of you and just figure it out the next day. Like that's all they can do right now.
Yeah, I think we're losing Braden here. I'm just getting a lot of static on my end.
Yeah, Braden is sliding into the matrix. I don't know if your phone's dying or the Wi-Fi is having issues.
But you know what? I think the biggest thing I fear, and I would say this to any team, any fan base, is a 2 out of 3 series in the first round. Anything could happen. Like I've been seeing all for the last 24 hours, all these, who's the team most likely to lose the first round. Honestly, any of the higher seeds could lose the first round. Because the 2 out of 3 series is just random as hell. Like, nothing would surprise me at this point in time. Plus 2020 is so freaking weird. I wouldn't even be shocked if we had the Astros and the Brewers, both sub 500 teams, make a run and get to the World Series, because 2020 has been so freaking weird.
Well, we did actually have this tweet also that Tyler pointed out to me. All the Pirates win this season came against playoff teams. Yes, they lost a lot of games. God, they lost a lot of games.
They lost a lot of games.
I mean, this is what we're dealing with here with this mini season. And just to your point of 2 out of 3 series in baseball, literally anyone could win 2 out of 3 games.
Yeah.
I mean, even the Pirates of all teams. Maybe not the Pirates. All right, maybe not the Pirates. But most teams, capable teams full of professional baseball players, can win 2 out of 3 games. So
Sure.
that's what's going to make this very, very weird.
All right, Braden, I'd see your message. Thank you so much for joining us, man. We appreciate that. Come back on anytime. Get that phone charged up and enjoy your night. But yeah, it's. I mean, obviously, I'm excited, especially come Wednesday when we're going to have. Like I saw the schedule for Wednesday. It's like there's one game starting like every hour. Another playoff game starts, so that's going to be just super fun to watch. Yeah, it's scary. Like I love the matchup for the Dodgers against the Brewers, but I hate that it's 2 out of 3 because especially if you lose that first game, like.
Now everything is just like, all right, we got to win this game, or I mean, we literally have to win this game. So then you're going to see the weird, like, oh yeah, this guy that's normally a starter coming out of the bullpen, like trying to close this game out or get to the closer. Like people are going to be doing weird stuff strategy wise, especially with the pitching.
Yeah, well, I mean, like look at the Yankees and Indians, like that series, first game, Bieber versus Cole, like that's 2 of the best pitchers in the game right now. One team's going to lose. They're going to be like, well, we just sent our best guy out there. Now we're screwed because we lost. Like, it's such a weird format. Like, as a baseball fan, I love more baseball, but I hate the format, especially as a team that is prone to disappointing in the postseason. But yeah,
you said it, not me, but also I will say that yes. Real quick, I want to go back to what I thought was a great comment from Cease. I've got to learn to kick. I still have 4 years of college eligibility.
There you go, man. There you go. Get on
Keep the dream alive.
That's it, man.
Alive. Can you punt or kick? Maybe you could be a long snapper. I don't know, but some
strong back
could use you. We could use you. And kind of pressed for time, so I did want to get into some of the fights over the weekend. We had UFC 253. So let's get it up to the fight doctor here to close out the show.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is the main event of the evening.
the heavyweight champion of the world,
It's time!
Yes, sir.
There we go. So before I jump into this, just real quick shout outs. Shout out Tampa Bay. They clinched the Stanley Cup tonight with a 2-0 win, and the Chiefs beat the Ravens as well. I can't remember what the final score was, but I saw that.
Oh, I got to look at my fantasy now.
But yeah, so we did have a big fight card this weekend. 2 title fights. Of course, the main event was the middleweight title fight with the champion, the last stylebender, excuse me, Israel Adesanya beating Paulo Costa by a TKO. Ronnie and I were texting back and forth a lot during this fight. Just no idea what Costa was doing. Absolutely, his bread and butter is just stalking guys down, fighting through their punches. Eating 2 or 3 shots so he can get his one punch.
And they're just coming in, yeah.
Yeah, but Adesanya, he did a great job of keeping him at bay with the leg kicks. And once he started to do that, Costa was kind of like, well, like his strategy at that point was to taunt. Like he didn't throw any punches. He stood there and taunted. And then Adesanya just, started throwing punches. I mean, he's an amazing world-class technical kickboxer. If you let him strike, he will. And he put Costa down. Had a few, post-match antics that seemed to piss a lot of people off.
Well, immediately post-match, he did the classic Halo, basically humping a dead corpse, which we see there. Graceful in victory. As always.
Yes, always.
In slow-mo. I like the slow-mo. I'm going to be honest. I like the slow-mo. But then took a little minute to chew Dana White's ear about guys not making weight should get fined 80, 90% of their purse or whatever. This guy looks like a star. What he did to Costa's leg it looked mangled and gross before it even ended because he just kicked the hell out of it. And yeah, Tyler and I were both confused as to what Costa's plan was. I'm not going to sit here and say a professional fighter was shell-shocked or stunned by what happened, but it kind of felt that way. Like, all right, well, you're not going to be able to actually stand up here in about 30 seconds. So you should probably go right now if that's your plan. And it just never happened. And then Adesanya just like beat the hell out of him.
Yeah, like I don't know if his strategy was like to maybe conserve energy for later rounds, but if that was his plan, as soon as Adesanya started kicking his leg, like, well, you're not going to be able to stand in 2 rounds. So
time to go.
Or I don't know if he just wasn't expecting Adesanya to use those leg kicks like a lot of boxers use jabs and just keep him at a distance. But it just looked like whatever his plan A was didn't work, and he didn't have a plan B. So
that's what it felt like. Yeah.
But big shout out to Izzy. I think he's definitely going to be top of that division for a long time, as long as he wants to, unless he decides to move up or down, because that guy really could go either way. He doesn't have to cut much weight, really any weight at all at the middleweight division. The other title fight, of course, before that was the vacant light heavyweight title with Jan Blachowicz TKOing Dominic Reyes. Bit of a surprise to me. Reyes' last fight was against John Jones. Looked really great against John Jones. I thought he actually won that fight. A lot of people did. Definitely not the same fighter this one. He seemed really hesitant. I don't know if Blachowicz's power just kind of maybe threw him off, but the guy's whole deal is Polish power, so that shouldn't have been a surprise. Looked really, of course, in Reyes's, he took two really heavy kicks on his right ribs, and I think Ronnie might.
Oh my God! Yeah,
that's from 2 kicks, folks. That's
from someone's foot. So just think about that and imagine how bad that feels.
Yeah, Reyes, he kind of looked real tentative, real hesitant too, and against a power striker, it's pretty hard to do. Again, Blachowicz eventually tagged him, got him down, ended the fight. So now we got a new light heavyweight champ there. I just want to give another shout out on the main card here, the flyweight fight between Brandon Royval and Kai Kara France. Kara France opened as a heavy favorite. I did see like a lot of people in Vegas kind of started leaning towards Royval because the odds were so good. He wound up catching Kai Kara France in a submission, so that's moving Royval probably up into the maybe into the top 10 discussion of the flyweight. So want to give a big shout out to him. All in all, solid card. Wasn't really bored by any fights. A couple disappointing performances, of course, in the main card. Not really sure what Reyes and Costa were doing, but all in all, pretty entertaining. And now we got a nice weekly setup of fight nights over there on Fight Island, leading up to the big lightweight title fight, between Khabib and Justin Gaethje at the end of October.
Oh yeah. And also want to give a shout out to Anthony. Shout out to Anthony, the only sports news source I need. Yes, please believe that.
There we go, Anthony.
Got
what's
you
up,
covered.
Man?
But yeah, UFC's just been doing a good job week in, week out, putting cards together. Now, as Tyler said, they're back in the Fight Island realm for a little while, and that's going to be building up to the next big one. Again, still really scratching my head as to what was going on with Costa there. Obviously, Izzy was the favorite, but it was just like, have a plan. I mean, lose with a plan. Just don't get your ass kicked.
Have a plan and have a plan B. Like that.
Just don't come out there and just get beat down, and everyone's like, what just happened?
Yeah, it was weird. But again, thank you so much for Braden. I know that we ran along with him, but I'm perfectly okay with that. I love talking to that guy. He can come on anytime. But we're up against it here. Ronnie, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, again, thank you to Braden. Check him out tomorrow. Coach is back. Good to see you back on the air.
Oh, nice. Good. Coach is back.
So check him out tomorrow, noon to 3 on The Fan. And I don't know if he's doing any of I believe the Padres series starts tomorrow, so I don't know if he's doing any of that. Wednesday, okay. So he may be on that first one, I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely big shout out to Braden. Thanks for joining us. Always welcome here as we have the Big 12 Insider and also TCU Video Staff Insider and Padres Insider.
Yes. All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, Braden, thank you very much. Stick around here on the Quarantine Network. We got the Book Club for TV with Patrice coming up right about now. We'll have some more news for you, of course, with the NBA playoffs starting, or the NBA Finals starting Wednesday, as well as the MLB playoffs. So we'll look forward to that for our short show on Wednesday. But love you guys, as always, keep the fire.
Keep the fire. Let's go UC Riverside football.